A lot of people have a dream to move to Hawaii, but how much does it really cost? That's a question I get asked all the time. In fact, it's one I've been asked ever since I started this channel, way back 4 years ago. Look at that poor guy. He couldn't even tell where the camera was. If you want to know a little bit more about my story and how I got started with my off-grid homestead, that video there dives more into it. But today I'm going to give you a little bit more of a updated version on how much it costs to go off-grid in Hawaii in 2024. Because it's a lot different. I went off-grid in 2003, and back then, lots where I live were going for only $3,000 for a quarter acre. Materials were cheaper, everything was cheaper. But 2024, times have changed, and those realities are something that we need to talk about to see if it's still worth going off-grid in Hawaii. You see, after COVID, prices skyrocketed. It seemed like everyone wanted to move to Hawaii. And since property values have been rising like crazy, the Big Island is the place to be. And so it's not really that affordable anymore like it was when I first got here. But just know that before you come out here, you should take into account the fact that Hawaii has a crime problem, there's a poverty issue, there's this cost of living issue, the cost of almost everything, food, gas, materials to build, you name it, through the roof. There's increasing traffic on all of the islands. There's growing discontent. There's very few jobs. The schools are really horrible. Shoots, I could go on about all the cons, but there's also a lot of pros. It's beautiful. If you set yourself up right and have money, you can set yourself up really nicely. Lifestyle here is pretty chill and relaxed. And if you know how to live a chill and relaxed lifestyle, then you can do pretty good out here. But otherwise, you might struggle and you may end up moving back home. So that's something for you to consider before I dive into what it costs to go off grid. There's going to be a lot in this video, so in order to make it easier for you, I did make a downloadable checklist for you to be able to see the steps of what it takes to develop a piece of property, as well as some of the basic costs involved with it. So if you want to download that, be sure to check the description down below. First, let's talk about buying land. As I said earlier, the price of land here in Hawaii is not what it used to be. Hawaii has always been expensive, but now it's just crazy expensive. The average house price on other islands are $1 million, and on this island, it's $500,000. Land is going up in price. If I was gonna buy today, I wouldn't, personally. Yeah, I just don't think it's worth buying some of these parcels that are way out in the boondocks where you have to drive forever, and no one wants to help you out there. No one wants to drop off material. Nobody wants to service what you have just because you live so far away. It's just a challenge in those areas, and it's not the type of lifestyle that I myself would be looking for, to be so remote and removed from everything that is out there. Now, if that's for you and you don't mind just hunkering down on your property for a week at a time and then going out for supplies maybe once or twice a month, then sure, get yourself one of those cheap parcels. But for me, living off grid also requires a lifestyle. I want something more with my lifestyle. I want to be able to ride my bike, see my friends, go out real quickly if I want to go out. You know, I don't want to be taking all day just to do one little chore. You know, like I said, I got mine for $3,000 in a pretty good location. Now these lots are going for $20,000, maybe even more. I think they're actually going for $30,000 now here, which is kind of crazy in my mind. Not to say that there still aren't affordable pieces of property, and maybe they're affordable to you. But for a lot of us out here in Hawaii, they are no longer affordable. And that's the issue that people are having with a lot of newcomers. Is you're coming out here bringing all your money from jobs that you're making a fortune in on the mainland, whereas out here, the limited amount of jobs, the limited amount that you get paid in those jobs, just don't cut it to be able to afford living here, where you grew up, you know? And that's why people are getting a little bent out of shape. So you can understand, right? I would. It kind of happened to me. And that's why I moved here, because it was cheaper. But now it's not. So now that we got land squared away, and you know what it costs to be able to develop it, here in Puna, you need to do certain things. You need to clear it with a dozer, because most of the lots are jungle and forested and full of like lava rock that's really uneven. But if you're in other parts of the island, you may not have to do that. You may just have a nice soil dirt lot where, you know, you could just clear a little pad and get to work. I ripped my lot where I live, and it only cost me $1,500 because I made a deal with a dozer driver because he was already clearing my neighbor's lot. And I said, hey, can you come over and clear my lot? And he did. So it only cost me $1,500, but that was 20 years ago. Now I hear that it costs about $10,000 to do an acre, maybe a little bit more, $15,000 per acre, depending on how busy the operators are. So the price there has changed. And so I kept my zone 5 and I cleared the rest of the area, and I have a nice smooth place to be able to work my magic. And that's what I did over the ensuing 20 years. But like I said, the costs have changed with land clearing, so keep that into account. And the next thing I did after that was put a fence in, because I knew that whatever I did on my property, if I didn't have a fence, I would have to fight off dogs, killing my animals, or I'd have to fight off pigs, destroying my plants. So I made sure that I got a fence in. And now I was quoted $10,000 to fence in my half acre. That was 20 years ago. I'm pretty sure it's about $15,000 now to be able to get fence posts into this rock and whatnot. But if you have a piece of property that doesn't have rock and doesn't have dirt, it's gonna be a lot cheaper than that. But if you don't have the money, you can do it yourself. And me, I'm not gonna pay $10,000 to put a fence in. So I did it myself. I had a machine here on property. I asked him to dig some holes with his jackhammer implement. And so they put all the holes in for me. And then I just went in and set the fence posts and rolled out the fence. And I did that for probably a total of $2,000. In this day and age, I think you could still do it yourself for about $2,000, maybe $3,000 if you're doing sort of an ag fencing. A chain link fence is gonna cost more, maybe $8,000 to $10,000. But a little bit of ag fencing on your property works pretty well. And for me, I've never had a pig. I've had a wild dog because I have an open gate, but never had a pig. And I say I'm been pretty happy with it. It's still there, it's still doing its thing. After clearing my lot, I spread cinder on the property in order to smooth it out, because when it gets cleared by a dozer, you got a lot of big rocks that make everything uneven. And by spreading the cinder, you got this nice even ground that eventually the grass will grow up through and be able to create a nice, smooth and soft ground surface for you to mow and to walk on, and just to make life easier as your system develops. It's well worth the cost in the early days to get some of that cinder spread out. And so now when it comes to building your house, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do? How are you gonna build it? A lot of us out here just build with what's easily available, and that's material that we find at Home Depot. Home Depot is the store of choice for most builders out here. We also have HPM, Argus Lumber, and other small lumber supply people that provide home kits to be able to build yourself a home that already come with permits, a lot of them. So it could make your off-grid journey a lot easier. A lot of other people just kind of scrounge materials and create a house that way. Or they build a house out of a yurt, or make an aircrete dome, or a place out of bamboo, or just a shipping container. There's all sorts of ways people build homes. It's up to you, your budget, and what you decide to use. But the average house construction now, I'd say my home I built for $10,000. It was about a 14 by 20 square foot room pretty much when I built it for $10,000. And these days I would probably add double that price, $20,000 to build the same space. And if you're looking to do a little more detail and fancy additions to your home, you may be looking at $30,000 for a 20 by 14 foot space. That's what the house price is looking at. Next, after building the house, is getting your water and power in. And for us out here in Hawaii, most of us are on rainwater catchment, or at least here in Puna. And so rainwater catchment is a thing, it's normal, it's something that everyone agrees on. But the only thing is, in order to be permitted, you need a 10,000 gallon tank. And it probably costs $1 a gallon for this tank. And I'd say it's probably about $1 to $2 a gallon, even still to this day. Now, it depends on what type of tank you get. The one you see behind me is one of the more affordable ones. We also have the poly tanks that are fully enclosed that cost a little bit more. There's cement tanks, there's underground tanks, there's all sorts of water tanks. You can even catch water in an Intex pool that costs a couple $100. Permitted wise, you need 10,000 gallons, and that's so that the fire department has enough water to put out a fire on your house if there ever is one. Now, when it comes to power, you have a couple choices. You either tap into the local utility, or you get solar, wind, whatever sort of alternative power you could think of, you can do that. Here in Hawaii, solar works pretty well. It's sunny. It also rains a lot, but it's pretty sunny. And I myself have about 8 to 10 panels on the top of my roof, a couple batteries, and overall the system cost me about $10,000 to $15,000 to install. And I would say it's about 80 bucks a month to maintain. Whereas if I was going to tap into the centralized power system, I would have had to pay to get power brought onto my lot, which is about $3,000. It may be more now, but hopefully they kept that number the same, because that's what it cost them back in the day. And then you also have to pay your monthly bill, which tends to add up. So is solar better than centralized power? I think so. I think the upfront cost is well worth the price, as opposed to having to go with the centralized power that out here tends to have a lot of outages. They always are raising the price, and people are always grumbling about the price of their power bill. And I think over time, solar power saves money over the centralized power. But if you want to use a lot of power, heavy power tools, or you got some high load demand, you may just want to go with that centralized power, because it's hard for the solar power to keep up. And the only thing I have here that is tapped in from the outside is the Wi-Fi. They wired all of us with fiber optic during COVID, and so I tapped into that and got myself some high-speed internet for $50 a month. So it's a great deal. Internet pretty much is a must these days, so if you're gonna get it, it's really easy to actually get it. If you're far off in the boondocks, where I would not recommend to be unless you just really don't like people, you can get Starlink these days, or some other satellite internet provider. It's possible to get internet almost anywhere. Don't shy away from the fact that you might be secluded. Internet is possible. Finally, we come down to the garden, producing food for ourselves. What off-grid homestead doesn't have a garden to produce food for themselves? So you got to factor in that cost as well. Having a 1/4 acre garden in the tropics was more than enough. You know, I don't want to be beholden to my garden. I like to go out, go to the beach, or go for a hike, or do other things than just be in my garden all day. So a 1/4 acre was plenty. And that means that I didn't have to buy as big of a lot, and I could keep my costs down. And when I developed my garden, I did it all myself, slowly and simply, growing plants by seed, taking cuttings, bringing in dirt in the back of my truck, and building up my gardens. And overall, it probably cost me about $1,000 to do that. Now that I'm older, would I do it the same way again? Hell no. I'd probably get truckloads of soil delivered, maybe buy some plants just to get them to grow faster. But I'd probably get cuttings for a lot of other things. But you know, I'd probably maybe spend $2,000 to $3,000, maybe $5,000 on my garden nowadays, just to be able to get it done quicker. And so if you're a little bit older, or you have a little bit more money and less time, or you just want things growing in the garden faster, I would guess between $2,000 to $5,000 would be a good number to set aside to get your garden growing. So let's see, where are we at now? We've got our land. Land is valued between $40,000 to $100,000 now in Hawaii. We have our clearing of the land, which is probably about $15,000 for a complete ripping and clearing of a lot for a 1 acre, maybe $20,000 depending on how busy everyone is. We have cinder that smooths out everything on the land. That's going to cost you probably about, you know, $2,000 to get enough cinder to fill in an acre of land. Then we got the house. Depending on how fancy you want to get, or how simple you want to be, a house could be anywhere from $50,000. I would say it could be roughly $30,000 to as much as, you know, however much you want to go to. The sky's the limit on the upper end of the budget, but I would say on the lower end, $30,000 is probably the least amount you can get away with these days. When it comes to installing water, you're either getting a small tank like mine for about $3,000 to $4,000, or you're getting a larger tank for about $10,000. Solar panels, you can start off with something really simple, a couple panels for maybe $2,000 or $3,000, or you get yourself a more setup system for about $10,000 to $15,000. Tapping into Wi-Fi, that's pretty easy. That's about a $50 a month bill. And it's free for them to come out and install it. Growing your garden, like I said, about $2,000 to $5,000. And with all that, we're looking at about roughly, I would say $80,000 land, home, power, water, up to $80,000 to $100,000 for the minimum, up to sky's the limit for the maximum. So there you have it, guys. In 2024, the most basic, bare bones property that you can get in Hawaii to go off grid on and build a house would probably run you about $80,000 to $100,000. That's a lot more than when I started. I probably got into my place for about $30,000. So times have changed. Prices are higher. Will property values go down? They could. We've all seen a bubble like this before. Do you want to wait? Maybe. Is Hawaii the place you want to go to? It may not be anymore, or it might be. It depends on you and how much you love this place. All I would say is start small, keep it simple, and work your way up. If you don't have that much money, you got to work and save money. And as you build up, as you get there, you can improve and add more and more as you gain more and more income. There's fortunes to be made out there. And is it going to be in Hawaii? It may not be. Your opportunity may now exist in another place. And that's what's great about 2024. There are so many more doors open to make those opportunities happen. And if you want the handy dandy sheet to help keep track of what I just told you in this video, remember, I left a link for it down in the description below. Once again, thanks for watching today. This video was not to encourage anyone to move to Hawaii. It was not meant to discourage anyone to move to Hawaii. It was just trying to give you the facts about living off grid in Hawaii. Okay? So, thanks for watching. I hope you liked the video. If you have any comments or experiences going off grid, why don't you leave them down below? All right, till next time, a hui ho.